I'm so tired. Hey everyone, Dan here, welcome back to another video, and we are halfway through 2023, which first of all is mad, but secondly, in the words of Bon Jovi, whoa, we're halfway there. So that means we're at the end of June, the month of June, and that also means I'm going to be giving you my June film ranking. Now, this month saw me watch significantly less films. I only watched 8 films this month. Usually the previous months I've watched at least 10, so it's a bit of a step down. But a few things, mainly like schoolwork's been occupying me. I wish it wasn't. Anyway, honestly, June, for the films I watched, it wasn't that remarkable. There's only one really just amazing film, to be honest. That's kind of it. I did watch some short films though. Okay, so I watched a couple more Buster Keaton shorts. I watched The Scarecrow, which is probably my favourite of his shorts I've seen. It's just so much fun, and the dog is amazing. I also watched The Haunted House, which is a bit weaker, but I still enjoyed it, and it's better than The Haunted House I went to at Drayton Manor. I've also seen a few short films from my film class. We had Alan Clark's Elephant, which is a film that I appreciate, don't really enjoy it. Also got to watch The Wrong Trousers, the Wallace and Gromit film, which the fact that I used to call it the weakest Wallace and Gromit film is genuinely a criminal offence. And I also watched the Pitch Black Heist with, it was a pretty fun little kind of crime film. Neil's dad from The Between was in it for some reason, I don't know why, but it was pretty fun, little crime film. For those are the shorts, let's get on to the 8 feature films, starting at the bottom.
As they say in fencing, what's the point?
Fear and Desire is the feature film debut of acclaimed filmmaker Stanley Kubrick, one of the most acclaimed filmmakers in cinema history. Some of his films like 2001, The Shining, defining the very genres that they're a part of, and his career all started with this crap. It's a no-budget art house film, and it's historically hated by Kubrick himself, and I have to agree with him there. I just really don't like this film at all. It's only an hour long, just over an hour long, yet it feels like an eternity. The story is just boring, the characters are boring, the acting is about as wooden as the trees all around them. Even the filmmaking and direction doesn't feel very Kubrick to me. Aside from maybe the odd shot here and there, and the odd sequence like the bloke who goes a bit loopy in the woods because of the woman they've met, you can see the nucleus of Kubrick's vision, but it really doesn't come across. And also the poetic, thematic anti-war messages really don't come across well. It's just an absolute snore fest. However, despite the fact that I really don't like it, I would unironically recommend it. First of all, it is novel, seeing the first ever Kubrick film, one of the most acclaimed filmmakers, get his start. It's kind of novel in that regard. But if you're an aspiring film student, I would genuinely recommend this, as well as a lot of sort of directorial debuts, I think, specifically to see what and what not to do. And in the case of Fear and Desire, very much, Kubrick tried to aim high with these poetic anti-war themes and messages, but if you don't have the resources to properly pull it off, then you've got to be aware of that, and don't try and be that ambitious at the start, because at the start you have very little, so you need to make best use of what you have.
I think it's
Whilst absolutely the weakest Indiana Jones film, I don't hate Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. I wouldn't call it a good film either. As I say, I don't hate the film. I think there are positives to it. Harrison Ford, he's always great, when is he not? I like the fact that they brought Marion back. John Hurt's in it, and he's always great to see. Some alright villains, and I also do quite like the Cold War 1950s aesthetic. It's something new and fresh, and I always appreciate films that try and do different things in that regard. But on the whole, I just find the film honestly boring. Obviously, there are really stupid scenes like the fridge nuke scene, there's the swinging with monkeys like Tarzan, there's Shia LaBeouf's character, there's the aliens crap at the end. Yeah, it's stupid, but mostly I do find it boring. The story is very typical of an Indiana Jones film, and I think what it is, now that Dial of Destiny has come out, I think I can pinpoint why I find it a bit dull. And it is kind of the character of Indiana Jones. He's, they don't really lean into his age that much. He's still kind of just doing the same old shtick that he did 20 years before this. And to me, they don't really lean into the age enough, and it just creates a very samey feeling film, just not as good and just plastered in CGI. I mean, Dark Destiny, I'll get onto that in a bit, but, CGI ain't great, but my god, this film is just plastered in it. It just takes the authenticity and the believability out of it all, and it's just not fun to watch. There's really not a lot I can say, except I just find it kind of dull, and I don't enjoy it. And for every other indie film, I can absolutely say I enjoy it and have a smile on my face. This one, I just don't, really.
Now I am Darkstar.
Darkstar is another directorial debut, this time for John Carpenter, who would go on to direct many sci-fi and horror cult classics like The Thing, Halloween, They Live, Christine, many others. This is a debut, and whilst not amazing, I think it's a bit dull in places, and it's obviously very low-key. It's very much aware of its limitations and plays into that. Certain aspects of the film, like the beach ball alien or the bomb who has an existential crisis, it plays into sort of these satirical, humorous elements because it's aware of its own limitations, like budgetary limitations. It plays into that, and I think that's why it's quite enjoyable, I think. And also, I thought, actually, the final sequence where one of the astronauts is talking to the bomb, it's quite interesting, kind of like trying to overcome AI. I thought that was quite an interesting theme. I think it's got some nice, charming, kind of low-key set and special effect work. The characters, I mean, they're not the best. Again, it's pretty low-key, but it's quite fun. And it's cool to see how it influenced other sci-fi films in the future. Like, Dan O'Bannon is in this film, and he wrote the film as well, and he also went on to write Alien. Again, one of my other favourite films ever, and so that was really cool. As well as that, I think you can see the influences of John Carpenter's own career in this film. For example, there's that one astronaut who's in the sort of the little pod looking at space at the top, away from everybody else. That kind of reminded me of Kurt Russell's MacReady character in The Thing. He's sheltered in his shack away from everybody else. In this film, unlike Fear and Desire for Kubrick, you really get a feel of John Carpenter's mindset and his cinematic vision and the kind of things he likes to explore. And I think that, again, this is why this makes it a much better debut film, even if it is pretty low-key and not spectacular. But the film's aware of that, and that's why it's an enjoyable enough film.
I'm a time traveller. I point and laugh at archaeologists.
And now we have the most recent Indiana Jones film, The Dial of Destiny, which I enjoyed, alright? I knew it wasn't going to be as good as the original trilogy, and it wasn't. I think there are definitely flaws to the film. The CGI and green screen isn't great. The action overall isn't amazing. It's definitely not the same standard as the original three. I know certain aspects of the film will be divisive, like the ending. Phoebe Waller-Bridge's character I know has been divisive, but for some people, maybe not for the right reasons. But overall, look, I enjoyed it. I just kind of switched your brain off, and I just had a fun time with it. I really did. I don't know how shallow of this of me it is to admit, but honestly, the nostalgia bait kind of, it worked. Like, even little things like the white title text at the beginning of the film, with the title of the film, or like hearing John Williams' amazing score in a cinema. I think it's just like it just puts a massive grin on your face, I think, and I really enjoyed it. Harrison Ford, he clearly loves the role. I love that. I love the fact they do lean into the age of the character a bit more and acknowledge it rather than just ignoring it, which I feel like Crystal Skull kind of did. And I've heard people getting a bit kind of hissy about it, and I don't get it. Like, it's not Luke in The Last Jedi. He does get to go on the adventure. Like, I don't get the criticism, really. I really like the 1960s sort of space age aesthetic. I love the New York stuff. That's probably my favourite part of the film. I love that section. I think there's some interesting themes of like time and aging and kind of being like history. Sort of, I think it's kind of some interesting ideas played about with that. What else? Mads Mikkelsen, I think, is a really great villain. I think he's got a certain otherworldly quality that I think just really works for the character. Phoebe Waller-Bridge, I'm kind of conflicted on. I know that it's not amazing, but I liked her enough, and I thought the character arc of her being, becoming a better person, I think it was alright, not amazing, but I didn't dislike her or anything. At the end of the day, I had fun with it. There was some fun action scenes, fun characters, some fun ideas, and some pretty emotional stuff, like with Indy himself, and I just, it put a smile on my face, and that's more than I can say about Crystal Skull, Fight the power! Do the Right Thing marks the first occasion this year that I've rewatched a film within the same year. Obviously, you remember that I watched it back in January for class in 3 separate intervals, and that was my first time watching it because, we meant to study a different film in its place, but it got changed to Do the Right Thing at the 11th hour, so I didn't really have time to seek it out and watch it on its own and let it wash over me, which is what I normally like to do. So that viewing definitely impacted and hindered my enjoyment of the film. And also, I feel like studying it, and obviously because racial tension is such a pivotal part of the film, it's a pivotal theme. I think discussing it in a class full of white kids, I never felt, it was always a bit awkward, and I think the class atmosphere wasn't the best, and I wanted to watch it just on its own merits as a film and just kind of detach myself from that. And as much as I tried, I don't think I can ever fully disassociate my education with the film from my viewings of it. I just don't think I can separate it. But overall, it's a good film. After my rewatch where I could just watch it on its own merits, I do have some genuine critiques. For instance, I think the pacing's a bit off. I don't find Mookie the most interesting character, probably because of Spike Lee's acting. It's a bit like Tarantino. He's a much better director than he is an actor. And I couldn't care less about his romantic subplot. I just don't care about that. But everything else in the film, I think is quite strong. I think Spike Lee's filmmaking and direction is really strong. Some great cinematography, especially with Raheem. He's shot in a really interesting way. The colours are really vibrant. It makes it, feel very warm. The heat wave that they're having, really interesting. I think the way that racial tension is explored in the film, and through many different characters and many different perspectives, I think it's very nuanced. And offers unique perspectives, and I think it's really insightful in that regard. And I think there's some really interesting characters like Sal, Bugging Out, Ray Raheem, I think is really interesting. Sam Jackson plays a DJ, he's really fun when he pops up. The music's quite cool. The ending is really brutal and really impactful. Even when I first watched it, I was like, whoa, that's really impactful. I think, honestly, if I was judging it on its own merits, I would put this a couple places higher on the list. However, obviously, as I said, my class viewing still, I can't really detach it from that, so I do apologise. My low opinion, this is the one time where it's very much a me problem that the film is rated lower than I would like.
What are you doing?
It's a scene from Butch Cassidy.
Yeah, I know that bit, but that's not a bicycle. He's really not Catherine Ross.
I have a confession to make. I have never seen a proper Western film, before this. I've seen Blazing Saddles, but that's about it. And I know that's the same logic as, I've never seen a Star Wars film, but I've seen Spaceballs, but what have you. Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid was a pretty good start to the Western genre, and I plan to see many more in the future. And overall, I thought it was very enjoyable. Some great action scenes like the train heists, they were very cool. The gunfight scenes, they were really well done. It's got great cinematography, very dynamic at points, and yeah, I think it's really, really well made film in that regard. I think it's got some really good characters like Butch, Sundance, and Etta. Catherine Ross's character make a really good sort of trio throughout the film. I think Butch and Sundance think what we learn about them and their dynamic is very interesting and compelling. Paul Newman is really charismatic, and having grew up on the Cars films, it's so weird not hearing him as Doc Hudson with the really gravelly voice. It's weird hearing him young, I've got to say, but it's really cool. I'll also be honest though, I wouldn't put it that high up. I think I didn't really pick up on many sort of themes. I kind of just took it in for just the entertainment value, the action and whatnot. There probably are themes of identity. I think Westerns are kind of known for having those kind of themes, but I didn't really pick up anything. And the pacing I thought was a bit off. I think it was getting a bit slow towards the end. And if it wasn't for the amazing gunfight at the very end, I probably would have put it below Do the Right Thing, but to be honest. But yeah, it's a solid film. I would recommend it, and yeah, it's a fun enough time.
Must have scared the living daylights out of her.
Hey, title mention.
The Living Daylights is a Bond film that I've not watched in about 2 years or so, and it's always one that I had a soft spot for. I haven't rewatched the Dalton films in quite a while, so I figured I'd rewatch it. And overall, it's not top tier Bond for me, but it's still very enjoyable and some fantastic elements to it. The main key to the film's success is Dalton himself. The conviction and intensity he brings to the part is breathtaking. It makes it so compelling and refreshing after 7 films of Roger Moore. Although, I love Roger, but, this is such a breath of fresh air, and it's glorious to watch. And this is weaker performance. It only gets better with License to Kill. Anyway, I also think Cara is a really strong Bond girl. She's kind of ordinary and relatable, and she stands out, and because she's the only real main Bond girl in the film, it allows for her chemistry with the Bond to really flourish, and I buy into the kind of romantic relationship that they sort of go with her. I just think on a technical filmmaking level, it's probably the best of John Glenn's directorial efforts from the 1980s. I think it's the best looking of that decade. You know, it's the cinematography and the image quality, it's very crisp. I think John Barry's score in this film is probably his best, to be honest. You know, a great note to go out on. You've got some fantastic action scenes like the pre-credit scene, the sniper sequence, the Aston Martin chase, which is probably my favourite car chase in all of Bond, and the Hercules plane climax. All brilliant stuff. And also, I've actually read the short story, the Ian Fleming short story that this is based on, and this film really does capture that Ian Fleming feeling to a T. The main thing that draws this film back are the plot and the villains. The plot, like towards the second half of the film, gets way too overly complex. You've got the whole defection stuff with Kozgov, but you've also got the diamond opium smuggling in Afghanistan, which makes no sense at all. But this film absolutely has some of the lamest antagonists of any Bond film. Like Kozgov, because of the whole defection plotline, the whole, fake defection, he's never really given much of a chance to shine as a villain. Whittaker, he's not remotely threatening. I honestly don't think the actor was suited to the villainous role. He played a comedic CIA informant in the Brosnan films, and I think he was much better suited to the more, the good guy kind of role. Necros, he's alright, but he's just kind of the brute. They are so lame, and they're not threatening or memorable at all. So with better writing and villains, this could have been top tier Bond. But as it stands, it's a fun romp.
I gotta tell you, it was perfect. Perfect. Everything, down to the last minute details.
Now, before I talk about Into the Spider-Verse in depth, I want to bring up this little podcast clip from a podcast that me and Mr. L did a bit ago when Into the Spider-Verse came into the conversation. I adore Spider-Verse. That's honestly probably my favourite comic book movie, period. Probably.
Old opinion.
I might change my...
I feel like Spider-Verse is a bit overrated, honestly.
Not only can I confirm with confidence my opinion that it's the best comic book movie out there, not only can I also confirm that it is my favourite film that I've seen this entire year so far, but also I can confirm that Mr. L, you're the one with the bold opinion, because your critiques of the film are things that I couldn't disagree more from, but we're still friends, so that's all cool. Anyway, Into the Spider-Verse is a film that I genuinely adore. I think it's a masterpiece, and I'm genuinely struggling to think of anything wrong with it. It is that good. We don't get films like this often. We really don't. I mean, let's talk about the animation. It is one of the best looking animated films, or just films anyway. And I think looking at it now, like sort of almost 5 years on, and looking at the revolution it boomed in the animation scene. You've got films like Mitchell's vs. the Machines, The Bad Guys, Puss in Boots: The Last Wish, and of course now Across the Spider-Verse, which utilise a more stylized art form, with the animation, instead of the same generic CGI crap that Disney craps out with all their crap movies these days. Why did I say crapping 4 times? I don't know. But it captures the comic book aesthetic so well. I love it, and the colours and the details and the speech bubbles and all the little... It's just a treat for the eye. There's so much detail. It's just amazing. I love it. The plot and stakes are really strong. Kingpin is a great, honestly at times scary villain. The other side villains like Dark Ark are really entertaining and not amazing, but they're still entertaining. The humour, this is probably the funniest film I've seen in a long time. I was howling at some of the lines. Like the play dumb joke had me in stitches, genuinely. Spider-Man Noir, played by Nick Cage. Mr. L, you love Nick Cage. I don't know why you don't love this film, but he's amazing. Spider-Ham, he's amazing. John Mulaney absolutely has me up. The bit when he's got a problem with cartoons? It's amazing. It's absolutely amazing. All the references as well, they're great. The Easter eggs. Gwen and Peter B, they're really great supporting characters. But the main key to the film's success is Miles. He's such a compelling, relatable character. He's really fun, great one-liners, but also he's got, relatable teenage struggles that anybody can connect with, and the whole family drama with Uncle Aaron and his dad. It's really compelling, and it's grounded, and it honestly made me take the part when he's tied up and his dad is knocking on the door and he can't answer, but it's just it's amazing. And the whole leap of faith message that the film puts across is so inspiring to anybody, not just kids, but anybody. And that leap of faith scene is... I get chills when I watch that scene. It is breathtaking. Absolutely breathtaking. I can't think of a single thing wrong with it. I could watch this film morning, noon and night. It is a masterpiece. And that was the June ranking. Hope you enjoyed it, halfway through the year now. What do you think of any of the films I talked about? What did you see this month? What films would you recommend we watch? Should I like, subscribe, all that good stuff, and take care, everyone. Bye-bye.